I often surprise myself. In my own mind, I think of myself still as that farm boy in Australia. And, the scabby-kneed kid who was, riding his push bike around in the dirt. I grew up on a farm and had an absolute fantastic childhood. And I still sometimes wake up and go, well, how did I get to where I am today? What am I doing in, Europe or in North America, wherever I might be? And what was that journey? And I think really it was just, I think it's that innate adventurer in me. I've always kind of liked the notion of discovering stuff, and I'm certainly an adventurer in thinking about the future. I've always had this real interest and passion about the future. I remember as a kid, maybe 6 years old, reading one of my father's school textbooks, which was about the future, and it had these pictures of how the future might unfold. And I remember being absolutely fascinated by this whole notion of, in the future, it could be different to the way it is today, and the uncertainty about how that future could look. And I think I've always been really intrigued by how things play out. For example, like even movies like Sliding Doors. I love Sliding Doors. The whole notion of a fraction moment in time of, you walk through one door or you don't, but what it leads to is a whole different possible future unfolding. And if you read Chaos Theory, which is about, small changes of things in the present and about how that can have quite large consequences in the future. That whole notion I find so fascinating. I guess it's the opportunity for me to be the adventurer, to think about and adventure into the future, to think about how could the future look, but what are going to be the factors that are going to shape it. And I like to, in the work we do in Future IQ Partners, is to bring that back to that real practical, if small changes in the current situation could make a big difference in the future, as leaders in organisations, how do you start to be proactive in that rather than at the effect of changes? How do you start to make and design the changes that are going to have the future you would prefer to have happen unfold over time? But I think I've just really followed my passion. I've just really followed what my interest is and my desire to make a difference and just followed where that connects in the world. Because the thing I'm discovering is that in today's world, people everywhere are concerned about the future. They're concerned about how the whole thing's going to play out, what's going to happen to countries, what's going to happen to the environment, what's going to happen with the climate. And people, more than I've ever seen, are wanting to be actively engaged in discovering those solutions. The younger generation particularly are like, we got to sort this out. And quite rightly, because it's their future that's going to be compromised if we don't. On a personal scale, I've certainly had a number of distinctly different chapters in my life, is what I like to call them. But there is a thread that connects them all. And so I grew up on a farm, as I said, and I did agricultural science at university, but I did an ecological spin on it because I was very interested in systems and how systems work. Really interested in what the impact are in one part of an ecological system and how that shows up in other, maybe not directly related parts, but that whole notion of things are connected. I worked for some 8 years as a rangeland scientist, so I worked in the outback of Australia, really understanding systems and really immersing myself in how nature works. And I think the systems thinking that I learned, and through survival and through my professional application, is really still runs through everything I do. Even today I look at futures for organisations and regions from a systemic point of view. I'm interested in how things impact not just in one dimension, but I'm interested in what the impact of decisions in an organisation is on the people and on their families and on the environment and on their triple bottom line or their economic bottom line. I'm interested in how those things play together. And then I had an opportunity. I worked for a senior cabinet minister in Australia and was involved in international trade development. But through that, I think what I started to really learn that I loved was I loved working with people when they started to see something different about the future. I don't think I'd end up doing anything particularly different. This is, for me, it's that sort of Zen thing. There's no difference for me between work and pleasure. And it's my vocation, right? And it's my chance to fulfill on so many things that are personally satisfying. I have no regrets, and I really, when I started the company 10 years ago, I really felt I'd hit the sweet spot of, I'd had a number of different careers and chapters in my life, and while I enjoyed each part of it immensely, I always had this sense that it was not exactly what I was put here to do. But when I started my company and started the work that I do, it was like everything that I'd done in my life came together. You know, the ecological systems training, the working in hard environments around the world, working in high levels of society and political environments, working with people, my investigation of change and what drives that, and all of that came together in creating Future IQ Partners. And so for me, it's really the vehicle to be able to try and develop some tools and approaches and processes that people can use to help plan their own future. And so that's what I want to do with my life, and obviously that's why I do it.